Welcome to Success Story, the most useful podcast in the world. I'm your host, Scott D. Clary. The Success Story podcast is part of the HubSpot Podcast Network. The HubSpot Podcast Network has incredible podcasts like the MarTech Podcast, hosted by Benjamin Shapiro. Each week, the MarTech Podcast tells stories of world-class marketers who use technology to create lasting success with their business and their careers. If you like any of these topics, you're going to like the MarTech Podcast. How science is changing advertising, how to set up a CRM so you actually use it, private equity's take on digital transformation, why big social is focused on newsletters. If these are topics that resonate with you, go check out the MarTech Podcast wherever you get your podcasts, or you can also go listen at HubSpot.com/podcast network. My guest today is Aaron Marino. You may know him as Alpha M. He has a YouTube channel with 6 million subs, billions of views. For almost 15 years, Aaron Marino, he's worked with thousands of men from around the world, helping them with personal style, grooming, fashion, image, wardrobe, dating, personal responsibility. He has not only expanded his reach through these viral videos and his incredible YouTube channel, but also with a wide variety of products, including the now retired style system that was featured on ABC's Shark Tank. He also had a second appearance on Shark Tank with his men's grooming company, Pete and Pedro. He also has built other businesses and companies, including Tiege Hanley, MENfluential Media, and Enemy. He's also an author of the best-selling ebook, The Male Style Guide, and the Confidence Course, and the Virtual Consultant Training Foundation program. He has built an empire based on helping men be better. He came on the Success Story podcast. This is what we spoke about. Pete and Pedro, how to go from small to big, lessons learned, Shark Tank experience, and what he took from it. We spoke about failure, bankruptcy to major success. We walked through his story and things that he's learned in his life, how he's grown, how he's lived life to the fullest, and how he went from a very dark spot to where he is right now. We spoke about some social media, some of the ways that he's grown his YouTube channel. We've also spoken about some just key life business lessons, entrepreneurship lessons that are just incredible for anybody. You could be starting any type of business. You could be just wanting to build a brand on social media. He's done it all. So let's jump right into it. This is Aaron Marino, otherwise known as Alpha M.
All right. So I guess when I think about sort of where my journey sort of started in terms of my life, it really had to have started at the gym when I was 12 years old. Growing up, my mother had a few different, marriages. I kind of bounced from school to school. Not to go into the details, but one of the byproducts of having a stepfather that wasn't exactly amazing in terms of he was a bit mentally and emotionally abusive, is that I lost my ability to really kind of like stand up for myself and feel good about myself. But when I was like 12 years old, I watched the movie like Rocky IV, right? And I saw like Rocky fighting the Russian. I was like, my God, look at those bodies, right? And I'm like, yo, if a body can look like that, that's what I want, right? And so my mom's like, what do you want for Christmas? I'm like, a gym membership. And, and I was 12 years old. And so, yeah. And so she got me a fitness membership. So she would drive me like, after school and drop me off for like literally like a few hours. And immediately when I went in there and I saw all these dudes and I was like the young kid, because, at that age, like 12-year-olds aren't working out. This is back, long time ago. And so it's like I found my home. It was the most amazing experience. I loved what was happening with my body, lifting weights. It truly was a game and a life changer for me. And what happened was pretty fascinating. Not only did my body start to look a little bit better, what it did for my confidence and my mind and just feeling great about myself, sort of, that was something that I wasn't really, I guess, expecting, but it was an amazing byproduct of just going to the gym. And I realized, okay, my home life might be kind of crappy, but when I went to the gym, I felt like a king. I felt amazing. And I realized from the age of 12 years old, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And so from the age of 12, I was one of those weird kids that knew exactly what he wanted to do for the rest of his life. I wanted to own a fitness center. That was going to be like it for me. And so for the next, 8 years, 9 years, 10 years, I mean, throughout high school, then I went to college, went to West Virginia University, got I majored in marketing. Oh, no, I'm sorry, business. See, now I'm all screwing up. I majored in business management with a minor in marketing and community health promotion. And so, fast forward, 2000. When was it? No, it was damn 98. I'm
Dude,
old.
and when everybody asks me when I graduated university, how many years ago, I always get screwed up because it
Yeah,
feels like it was yesterday and it
yeah.
was like a long ass time ago.
Mine doesn't feel like it was yesterday, but
Oh
it
no?
definitely no. It was 98,
Okay, cool.
1998. I graduated with a degree, and I'm like, all right. See, once again, I was just focused on I want to own a fitness center. And so I decided to move to Atlanta. My best friend's Harry, his father, was dating a woman in Atlanta. He's like, what are you doing after college? I'm like, I want to open a fitness center. And he's like, well, where are you going to do it? I'm like, I don't know. And he said, well, go to Atlanta. It was right after the Olympics. Olympics were like 96. And he said, if you can't make a business work in Atlanta, you can't make it work anywhere. It was booming here. And apparently, I couldn't make that business work anywhere because that didn't end up working out. So anyway, I moved to Atlanta and I got a job at a health club as a personal trainer. And I'm like, all right, it's not a gym ownership, but at least I was in this space that I wanted to be. I met a guy. He said, hey, he was the manager at the club. He goes, I want to open a nutrition store. Would you like to do it with me or help me? I said, sure. It wasn't a gym, but once again, it was a business. And so I was excited to try to just go into business and start a business with him. And so we ended up opening a nutrition store and, did that. We expanded to like 3 locations over the course of like 2 or 3 years. And then I realized I needed to get out of there because this was back when there was this weird thing called, I'm going to go into the weeds here for a second. Do you mind?
Do it. Go for it, man. I
Okay,
love
so
I'm all about this stuff too. This is like I was super into working out and fitness and like I think this is like a lot of like guys' dreams that were into athletics. How do you make a business out of working out, nutrition, fitness? But not many people live the dream. Not many people live the dream, man.
So okay, so there was this stuff back in the day. So if you're like old school bodybuilder or workout enthusiast, you might remember it was something called like Blue Nitro. There were these it was like a liquid that people would actually like drink, and it was sort of like it was a drug, honestly. And like there's all sorts of like, oh no, it's good for, serotonin release, and oh no, it's perfect for helping your, release growth hormone when you sleep. It's all bullshit. It was all just to get like messed up. And anyway, so it was something called furanone dihydro was the chemical compound. And so they were selling it, then it became illegal. And he's like, wait a second, you can make this stuff. It's essentially boat paint stripper is what no, yeah, exactly. So you see where this is going. It's going nowhere good. And so I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, but I knew that this was not something I probably needed to be around for the long term. And so anyway, found out that you can make this stuff by getting 31 ounces of like Kool-Aid, adding 1 ounce of this like paint, this boat paint stripper in, and you could, and people were buying it. Well, it became illegal, and he's like, yo, I can still make a lot of money doing this. Let's keep selling it. I'm like, yo,
as you can with many illegal things.
Exactly. I said it sells itself. And so I'm like, I think this probably isn't the best place for me. Prison is somewhere where I would be popular, but I wouldn't thrive. So anyway, so I decided to leave there. It was hard though, because, helped, expand into 3 locations. We were doing really well. And, I'm like, I just can't be here because, it was just not the right place for me. And so I ended up leaving, but while I was at the nutrition store, something cool happened. I met a woman and helped her lose 100 pounds. And so, her name was Linda. And so I left the nutrition store and she said, hey, would you be interested in opening up a personal training studio? I want to help other people do what you did for me. And I'm like, yes, let's do it 100%. So just to fast forward about a year, we signed the lease for our facility on September 11th, as in the September 11th that the planes were crashing into the World Trade Center.
Wow.
It should have been an omen as to how that business was going to unfold. And, we did that. We tried to expand. We ended up having to get investors, and there was a lot of fighting and legal battles, and we ended up having to shut down. And at that point, I was about $500,000 in debt. I was driving a beer cart at a country club on the weekends just to put gas in my car and to give my then girlfriend, my now wife, a few bucks towards groceries and rent. And so this was the lowest point in my life. I had the opportunity. I had a little fitness center. We were trying to expand. It didn't work out. And the worst part, I remember it like it was yesterday. I was getting ready to file bankruptcy and I had all this debt. And I'm at the golf course, and it was like December, and it was freezing here, relative, freezing for Atlanta. It was like 30 degrees, and I was just like, what do I do? And the worst part, and the reason why that was such a hard time for me, it wasn't that I was broke. Like, I'd been broke my whole life, grew up on welfare and food stamps and all that. Being broke's not a big deal for me, but what was the lack of a direction or a dream. For my whole life, from the age of 12 years old, the only thing I wanted to do was own a fitness center. And then when that dream like exploded, it's like, well, fuck. Like, what do I do now? I have no idea, because the type of guy I am, like, I am super like tunnel vision. I do not do well like looking at other opportunities and, oh, well, if this doesn't work out, I can do that. It's not like that for me. It's like, I'm here, I'm going to energize and focus everything that I have on this. And then when it went away, it was like, well, what do I do now? So anyway, fast forward, what do? I decided, you know what? Maybe I can try this like style consulting, because while I had my fitness center, I met a guy. So it's sort of interesting. While I was at the nutrition store, I met a girl, Linda. We opened the gym. And then when I had the gym, I met a guy, Steve. He was a client. He's like, hey, I don't know what to wear for a date. I said, well, why don't I take you shopping? Why don't I come over and see what you have? And by the way, your nose hairs are crazy. Let's go to my stylist and do this. And so I didn't know what I was doing, but it was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed it.
But you see opportunity. Like, you run after opportunity, man. Like, that's 2 times, right? Like, that's like networking opportunity. Go after it.
Yeah, well, I didn't know what I was doing. I'm not that smart. See, I'm an opportunist, or an opportunist like you just mentioned. But anyway, so he goes back to work after we do this little makeover, and his coworker, he worked at the Weather Channel, said, hey, you look great. What did you do? He goes, well, there's this guy. He took me shopping into this. She goes, well, will he take me shopping? Or not me, my husband. And I'm like, and he's like, yeah, probably. And she said, well, how much does he charge? And that was kind of like a light bulb moment where it's like, well, maybe there's a business in this. And so fast forward, I start this image consulting business. I was still moonlighting as a personal trainer in people's homes just to try and make ends meet. My fitness center was done. I started a company, alphaMimageconsulting.com. And because I thought you needed to have your URL say exactly what you did. And so it was like, 70 letters long and totally like ridiculous.
Way too hard to remember.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. It was horrible. And then 2008, well, I guess it was 2007, my wife gave me a video camera. For Christmas, I thought she wanted to get freaky and film ourselves, doing funky things. It was not the case. She just didn't know what else to get me, and so as a present. And so, I was like, well, let me see about this video camera thing. And so I'm like, let me see if I can figure this out. I'm super untech savvy. I started filming the first video. I was like, okay, I got all dressed up in my JCPenney's like the sport coat and a big tie with a huge knot, because that's what I thought back then you needed to wear in order to be like stylish, was a suit and a big, huge monster Windsor knot. And so I filmed my first video, put it out on YouTube, had no idea. Prior to that, I had been on YouTube probably 3 times and no idea. This was before YouTube was really a thing. It was in 2008. And the next thing you know, I got asked a question by somebody that was watching a video, and that's all it took. I was hooked. I'm like, all right, apparently the thing that I'd been searching for my whole life in terms of feeling successful was just validation, and like I was valuable. And so that was kind of the start of an addiction of putting out content and getting, feedback. And then that led to this, and this led to that, and started a few businesses, and the rest is kind of history. When I start that, 2008. So yeah, about 13 years ago. Wow.
Dude, amazing.
I am old.
You are old.
That's my story.
That's an awesome story, man. That's great. I love that.
Long-winded, but yeah, that's how we got to where we are.
I love it. And you know what I love about that? Like, now when people hit YouTube, it's so like, oh, I gotta have the perfect strategy, or the first video has to be perfect, which totally kills any creativity, any sort of, like, I know the word is thrown around a lot, like authenticity, but it does kill it when you want to target and you put stuff out there, and then I think it's like paralysis by analysis, and then just people don't. I just want to take a second and thank the sponsor of today's episode, BetterHelp. If you want to take advantage of a special promo, BetterHelp is offering all Success Story podcast listeners. Go to betterhelp.com/Scott Clary, betterhelp.com/SCOTTCLARY. So what is BetterHelp? BetterHelp is therapy, for lack of a better term. It's the best way to give yourself routine maintenance for your mental and emotional well-being. And the best way to think about therapy is usually through analogies. We always get our cars tuned to prevent bigger issues down the road. We get annual checkups, and we go to the gym to maintain physical health so that we don't get out of shape. We want to prevent injury, we want to prevent disease. We do chores regularly so they don't all pile up and have a huge giant mess in your house by the end of the week. Going to therapy is like all of the above. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. It just means that you're investing in yourself and keeping your mind healthy. BetterHelp is customized online therapy from the comfort of your home. It offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist. So you don't even have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. You communicate the way you feel comfortable. It is so much more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can start speaking to somebody in under 48 hours. Take care of your mind before any more bad stuff happens. Success Story is sponsored by BetterHelp. You get 10% off if you use this specific URL to sign up for your first session. So go to betterhelp.com/Scott Clary, betterhelp.com/Scott Clary, and you'll get 10% off BetterHelp. I just want to take a second to thank the sponsor of today's episode, Nutrafol. Now, I tried Nutrafol because I have some hair now, but I know that in my family, eventually I'll start to lose some hair. And for the longest time, when it came to hair remedies, the options were some sort of surgical or some sort of transplant or natural remedies that didn't really seem to work. So you no longer have to choose between a chemical or a drug or a prescribed fix for hair or some sort of surgery or just no results. Now there is a natural, holistic option that actually delivers results for your hair. This is Nutrafol. And Nutrafol does promote hair thickness, hair growth, and whole body wellness. So, of course, genetics are a cause of hair loss. Nutrafol goes beyond that because there are actually 5 other causes for hair loss that go beyond genetics. So you have hormones, nutrition, metabolism, environmental factors, and stress. Nutrafol targets all of these 5 factors. So even if you don't have the genetic predisposition to lose hair, there are other things that could cause you to lose hair. Nutrafol is targeting all those, helping with all those. Nutrafol is also clinically proven to improve hair growth and thickness and visible scalp coverage. It has 21 potent ingredients. Of course, these are helping your hair, but they're also supporting better sex drive, better sleep, and less stress. It's been recommended by over 1,500 doctors, and in clinical studies and trials, men did show progressive improvement in hair growth and hair thickness in 3 to 6 months. So you can grow thicker and healthier hair and support our show by going to Nutrafol.com and entering the promo code Success Story. This will save you $15 off your first month's supply of Nutrafol. And this is the best offer anywhere. It's only available to U.S. customers for a limited time. Plus, there's also free shipping on every single order. So if you want to get $15 off, get $15 off now on your first order of Nutrafol at Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code Success Story. Put stuff out. Man, you're living proof. I didn't know that's how you started your YouTube channel. And I think it'd probably be funny to go, maybe it wouldn't be funny for you to go back to the...
You know, it's funny. Well, what's funny is that I removed a lot of the earlier videos, and it's not that I was embarrassed of the. Oh, actually, I was embarrassed because when I first started YouTube, I was looking around and looking at like who was successful, and usually it was a lot of like crude humor and saying things that were a bit outlandish, and so I thought that's what I needed to do in terms of getting popular and to attract an audience. So I said some really offensive shit, and so looking back, I'm actually,
it wasn't you, man.
Yeah, it was exactly. And that was the thing. And that's sort of, for those of you listening, the thing that really kind of like, not catapulted me, because I'm like the overnight success that took 13 years, right? But what really happened was when I kind of dropped the act and just was vulnerable and let people see who I was and just was authentic, as they say, that's when everything kind of changed. I got sort of into the sweet spot where I felt good about what I was doing. And when you do that and you don't have like this weird agenda, it's pretty amazing what can potentially happen. And so just be yourself, because there's only one you. Everybody else has been done before, as they said, or as they say. And so, yeah, it was really cool.
So walk me through even just like building out your own quote unquote personal brand. So the brand is a culmination of things that are, I don't even know how to best describe it. Like things that a man would want to figure out or learn about, or like, how did you come to what Alpha M is today?
I
what
don't
was the
even.
concept?
Yeah, so Alpha M when it first started was just style. I was
Style,
just
okay.
talking about like how to dress because at the time back in 2008, the only resource for guys was really like GQ and Esquire. And, it wasn't my reality. It wasn't the reality of my friends and family and people that I knew. And so I was like, maybe there's just a space for a regular guy to talk about style in a more regular way. And then from there, it kind of went into grooming. And because I've always been interested in grooming, I cut my own hair, and so it was these little things that I started, talking about like butt hair. Like, I was the first person talking about like manscaping online, really. And it was just because I was comfortable talking about it. And it's something that I had questions about. And so I was like, maybe there are other people that are interested in this kind of stuff and maybe I can just be that resource. And then it transitioned into, pretty much anything that a guy might be interested in, then relationships and dating and pretty much just lifestyle stuff. And then
Yeah.
I am fortunate enough to be able to give, because I am a bit older than a lot of my audience, give some just real world lifestyle or life advice on things that I've struggled with in my past or things that I've dealt with that I feel I can just share a perspective. And so that's what
I
I
think
do.
you do something really, really well, and I've watched, I've watched a couple of your videos, obviously. And one thing that how you teach is like you just mentioned, you're just telling stories. You're telling stories about stuff that you've gone through. You talk about exes, you talk about your personal choices for style, for hair, for grooming, all that stuff. Um, did it take a certain Was that something that you were comfortable with, putting yourself out there, authentic? Was that something that you had to struggle with for a while? Or was that, like you mentioned, the first few videos, they weren't authentic? What
Yeah.
were they if they weren't authentic, if
No,
they
it was
weren't
me
you?
trying to be something that I wasn't and trying to, I was trying to be something that I
Yeah.
thought I needed to be in order to get people to like me, honestly.
And
And
that shit
and
never works.
no, it never works. And
Yeah.
so it's very, very easy to see through that. And so, yeah, I mean, that was just something. It wasn't hard. I mean, that's the thing. Like the hard thing was trying to be something and put up a facade. And so, the easy thing is just to kind of let your true self, shine through and just do you and be authentically, you know, open
Be
to
authentically you. Yeah.
yeah, be authentically you. Exactly. Lots of cliches in this
So many
podcast.
man,
I'm
cliches
tossing
cliches are
them.
there for a reason. I love it. Okay. Let's okay, what's the Shark Tank play? What's
Yeah,
the Shark Tank experience? You were 2x on Shark Tank, right? You were
yeah.
there twice.
I was on
So what
twice.
happened there?
Tried to get on a third time. They wouldn't take me back. They're like,
We're
Aaron,
done with you,
what?
man.
Yeah, what's the story now? Like shit. Yeah. So Shark Tank is like my favorite show, and for any entrepreneur, if you're thinking about, or interested in business, watch Shark Tank. The cool thing is that you can go. They're syndicated now on television. So every night of the week, you can go and watch like episode after episode after episode. And so I came up with this e-product. It was my first stab at like an info product, I should say, not an e-product because it was actually physically DVDs that I was trying to sell. It was an info product. I thought that, a lot of the people that I'm friends with in the space of internet, business and sales, a lot of guys are like, oh, the e-product, the e-product. And so I came up with this style system. And so my dad was like, well, how are we going to try and sell it? I'm like, I don't know. He goes, you should try and go on Shark Tank. I'm like, yeah, sure. And so literally, I remembered it was a Friday night. I went home, I went to ABC's website and I applied. And on Monday, I got a call and they asked for information. And it was 3 months later, I was pitching in front of the Sharks in terms of the Alpha M style system. They hated the idea. And I was like, oh, no big deal. It's okay. I'm on TV, so it's going to be great. I'm going to sell, thousands of these things. I'm going to be rich. Well, the night Shark Tank aired, I had like this big party. Everybody was around, and I was sitting there with like my computer, and I was like ready for the sales to come rolling in. I literally, right, 9 million people watching the show. I sold one style system.
Get out. Yeah,
So-
you sold one? I know
sold-
people that are on Shark Tank and they get like thousands of sales.
Yeah,
even from,
it depends on what it is. Apparently, that was a real wake up call. Like, hey, stupid, this is not right. And so yeah, it was a bummer. So I was bummed out for a little bit, but then kind of got over it. And I just realized that I'm not really an e-product kind of guy. And at least not like physical DVDs. Like I said, I'm a dinosaur. Yeah, like you can't even play a DVD on your computer anymore. Like it doesn't even have that ability. And so if it was an app or if it was like a web-based like program that was less expensive, I think it would have been successful. And I still think it's a good idea. It's just, it wasn't the right application and I wasn't the right guy to do it. And then I started a hair product company, Pete and Pedro, back in 2012, 13, somewhere 2013, I believe. I started Pete and Pedro, which was a hair product company. And I went to my stylist that I was friends with, Steven. I said, hey, do you have any connections at any of these like labs that make hair product? I think I want to come out with a hair product line. And he's like, yeah. And so he gave me a number. I called him up. They sent me samples. I called a few other labs. I got samples. I chose my products. I started Pete and Pedro white labeling products. And my opening order, I believe it was, I started Pete and Pedro for $3,000. And well, that includes everything. That includes my website. That includes my little stamps.com, like printing station, boxes, inventory. I had 5 hair products that I was selling, and I got 96 units of each. And it took me like 5 months to sell through that inventory. And that was an amazing business. My first kind of business selling physical products, other than I played around. I had a website also that I tried doing for a while, a membership website where I was selling like hand strung like beaded bracelets. The problem was that I was sitting there at night hand stringing these bracelets. And so not a scalable model.
It's not fun.
No. And so I've tried a ton of shit, man. I have tried a lot of things, and, a lot of things, some things have worked. Most things haven't, and you just keep, trying and throwing stuff against the wall and just scratching the curious itch. And that's kind of the takeaway. I'm not scared to fail. Once you fail as big as I failed in terms of the fitness center and bankruptcy and all that, failure, it's not as scary. And once you kind of get it out of the way and you realize that, okay, well, that sucks, it stings. And a lot of it, not only, one of the worst parts about when you fail in business, it's not necessarily the burden that it places on you. It's the embarrassment of having to acknowledge that something that you tried didn't work to other people. And so when you get over, at least it was for me, I can only speak for myself, but once you kind of get over the ego of, yep, you know what, I tried it at least. And you realize that most people aren't even willing to do that, And it's funny because the most people that are the most critical or the naysayers or the people that'll, say, oh, you shouldn't do that or you're wrong. They've never done shit and they never will. They're just going to basically, they're more comfortable staying comfortable and would rather, sit on the sidelines and point fingers and say 100%. How you didn't do something right or you should have done this way. It's like, you know what? F you, I'm out here trying. I'm going to try. I may not be successful, but at least I don't have regret and I'm not doing something I don't want to do.
That's a damn good attitude to have. Just jumping into stuff in life. And I think that's
hard,
what you
though.
Have to.
It's hard.
Super hard. But you know what you got to do? You got to find your tribe that just supports. And then you double down on that tribe and you force yourself to be accountable by telling them what you are doing. So that if you fail, they're there to support you because you don't want, and that's a tough thing because like sometimes it's family, sometimes it's friends you've had for a long time that are just really shitty towards what you're trying to do. And that's a tough pill for a lot of people to swallow. But when you find your tribe, people that support you that are also trying shit and entrepreneurial, not even entrepreneurial, just like super ambitious, if you put it out into the world, like for this podcast, for example, like I purposefully tell every single person I meet now, and now my identity has become more of the podcast. When it was first starting, it was the other stuff I was doing. Oh, I work at this job and I have a podcast on the side. Versus I lead with the podcast because that's holding me accountable, man. Like they're gonna look me up and they're gonna see it, and like I don't want to fail, so I don't. I'm just like making myself do it all the time. But I think that's the tribe you have to build. People that are cool with that.
And that was and that was there was a gentleman that I met that was on YouTube, Antonio Centeno. He has a YouTube channel, Real Men, Real Style. He reached out to me and I knew about him just because I saw it was me. I started the YouTube thing first talking about style. And then he came in a few years later and I hated him. I'm like, this son of a bitch is trying to, steal my something, whatever. And so he actually reached out to me and he said, hey, let's get together and meet up. And why don't we have kind of like a get together or a meet up for some of these other people that kind of are in our space. And I was very resistant to doing it, but it was one of the best decisions I ever made, was kind of stepping out of my comfort zone because I did not understand the importance of surrounding yourself with people that are sort of moving in the same direction. And and that was one of the, like I said, the things that changed my life. All of a sudden, I was around people that I had needed to be around, that were all like, inspiring, like people that were trying, that were just going after their dreams and doing something different, and it was amazing, because once you do get around those people that are trying, that are striving, that are just doing things outside of the box, it is amazing how it inspires you, number one, but it also will give you ideas. And then if you ever need help, they're always, just a phone call or a text away. And my friend Jordan Harbinger likes to say, your network is your net worth, or your net worth is your network. I'm sure he stole that from somebody else. Anyway,
but it's a damn good quote. I know Jordan. Yeah, so Jordan, he has a great podcast. Dude. That's what I'm trying to go to.
Yeah,
he has a good ass podcast.
He's a rock star, right? And so Jordan, he says, and Jordan had kind of like a I can't even say that word, tumultuous sort of relationship breakup with his former business partner, and and it was hard. I mean, Jordan literally almost started like from ground zero. He had his podcast, but they had a very big, and successful coaching business, and Jordan, he was like, you know what? I'm just going to reach out to these people that I know that are friends. And he does. He every day, like, sits down and sends text messages to people just to say, hey, and just to keep that connection going. And, I think that's something so incredibly, powerful, because we get so caught up in our own lives and our own shit a lot of times that, just taking a few seconds out of the day just to connect with people, you never know when you're going to need them, or they may need you.
I just want to take a second and thank the sponsor of today's episode, HubSpot. HubSpot is the CRM that you have to have for your business. And whatever your business is up to, your CRM platform should be ready. Why? Because believe it or not, CRM platforms are no longer just a selling tool. They're the heart of building and scaling your business, with tools for marketing, sales, customer service, content management, and operations. The HubSpot CRM platform is fully customizable for whatever your business needs. Use HubSpot to meet customer demand, align your teams, work smarter, not harder, scale up without having the need to slow down. With total control and over 650 integrations, HubSpot enables your team to succeed no matter how big or how small. Whether you're just getting started or looking for a robust system, HubSpot is the #1 CRM for scaling businesses. Learn more about how you can customize your CRM platform at HubSpot.com. I just want to take a second and thank the sponsor of today's episode, Uprising Food. If you want to take advantage of a special offer they've put together for all Success Story podcast listeners, go to uprisingfood.com/success story. That's uprisingfood.com/successtory. So what is Uprising Food? Well, essentially, Uprising is a vision to liberate all of us from a fundamentally broken food system that is stealing our health. There are so many bad foods out there that just destroy our health, and the snowball effect is silent inflammation with many of these fast foods that we eat. But the issue is usually that healthy food is either too expensive or doesn't taste good, or both. Uprising is solving that. They have cracked the code on healthy bread. I've tried it. I've never found anything that tastes this healthy, that tastes this good, and is this fresh. So there are 2 net grams of carbs per serving, 6 grams of protein, 9 grams of fiber. Remember, this is bread. They cover paleo, keto, low carb, high fiber to dairy-free or grain-free lifestyles. And all Uprising products are baked with real superfood ingredients. So almond, MCT oil, apple cider vinegar, egg white, psyllium husk, olive oil. So Uprising has made all of their foods, their bread, they have some chips as well, with prebiotic fiber. They made it delicious with their patent pending breakthrough and psyllium husk activation, which is fantastic for digestive health. But I guess this is the secret sauce that makes it actually taste good, on top of just being incredibly good for you. It all comes down to taste, and a lot of healthy foods are littered with broken promises. Uprising has nailed the taste factor, the texture. You honestly won't be able to tell that you're eating something that is quote unquote healthy. So if you want to try a starter bundle, which includes a variety of the foods that they put together, that they create, they've put together a special promo for all Success Story podcast listeners. The starter bundle includes superfood cubes, which are that's the bread, and then 4 packs of Freedom chips, which are delicious chips. Again, just as healthy as the bread. Go to uprisingfood.com/successstory and they'll give you a $10 discount off of this starter bundle. So you can try everything they're creating. You get $10 off. The discount's actually automatically applied at checkout if you go through that link. So go to uprisingfood.com/successstory. Get $10 off your first order. Try these foods for yourself. You won't be disappointed. The taste is incredible. And on top of that, they really are just incredibly good for you.
And, it's just great. You need to definitely cultivate and build that network. That is absolutely a critical thing that I think every entrepreneur, aspiring entrepreneur, should really consider and think about.
I think that's a really smart idea, and I like that point you brought up about constantly reaching out, because the one thing that isn't building a network is just reaching out to somebody when you already need them, right? You got to build that foundation way ahead before you even know what you're going to need help with. And then when you need that help, you can reach out to these people because you haven't just shut them out of your life for the past. And I have to work on that too, man.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard to keep up these relationships, but that's very important. Now, okay, so I want to unpack. Okay, so we're still going down this. So you finish up with the second Shark Tank, and I want to understand.
I didn't even get to the second Shark Tank yet. Hold on, here we go. So I got,
so I want to figure out this because that's a good story too.
So I got kicked off, or they didn't take a deal in Shark Tank. I didn't sell any style systems. It was a disaster, and so I ended up starting a grooming product, Pete and Pedro, and so I right away I shot him an email. Hey, I got a new business. It was because of Shark Tank. I realized, and I made the sales pitch like, hey, it's because I got rejected. And they're like, ooh, that's kind of a good storyline. And so, I lied about my sales a little bit in the audition, told them they were bigger than they were. And, I think I didn't I won't call it a lie. It was a little bit, it was generous in terms of my sales. And so anyway, so they're like, hey, let's, it was for maybe, I forget what season, maybe season 5 I tried to get on and they said no. And then I came back and
I got to hear, man. I got to hear. It was season 7, episode 29.
Yeah, that was that. Yeah, well, that was, I think I tried after I got kicked off, the first time I thought I was on season 3 or 4. I tried the very next season. They said no. I tried again, and they said no, I believe. And then they reached back out to me for season 7. And so,
okay, cool.
So yeah, so I go out there, and I was just super confident. Went out there, and I crushed it. I did a great job pitching. I was confident. And that was kind of one of the things. People were like, oh, were you nervous? Hell yeah, I was nervous. It was horrible. But it was just, you just got to stand up for yourself. And so knowing that when you do something like a Shark Tank, it's all about the television audience. It's not, they don't care about your business in terms of the producers. They just care that you're a good episode. And so I knew what I needed to do in order to, get on the air, because the thing that you don't realize, for a season of Shark Tank, there are 4 entrepreneurs every episode. And I think there's 25, 27 episodes per season. Well, that's, over a little bit over 100 of entrepreneurs. Well, they audition 150. So they're literally 150 that come out and do the pitch, that film, that do everything. But they 50 people, or entrepreneurs don't ever make it to air. And so I'm like, yo, if I'm going out there, I am getting on air. There's no doubt about that. And so got to deal with Barbara. She didn't want to invest in Pete and Pedro, and that was kind of the thing that I was so shocked at. I thought, I'm like, you know what, Pete and Pedro is a great business. It was doing good numbers, and I thought to myself, if any other entrepreneur would go on with the products and the company and the revenues that Pete and Pedro's generated, they would jump at the opportunity to partner, because the margins were great, the growth was incredible. But they realized, and what I didn't understand then, what I do now, is that, well, yeah, but why are you selling it? It wasn't that it's just getting a lot of traffic because it's a great product. It's because I was pitching it, and I was the one that was driving product sales and traffic. And so they ended up giving me a deal or wanting a deal for the Alpha M business. I took the deal on the show, and as soon as I got home, I called Barbara up, or I didn't call, I sent an email. I don't have her number. And I was like, hey, thanks, but I think I'm going to go on this alone. I really did need help with Pete and Pedro, like just really expanding
What was the game plan for them taking over Alpha M? Because it's a brand. So
yeah, they
would
wanted
just
to
manage it?
Yeah, no, like I do a lot of promotions and
Okay.
sales. So they wanted, basically, she wanted a piece of the brand Alpha M,
Okay.
and then whatever that looked like, whatever we did, whether or not it was promotions, whether or not it was endorsement deals, like whatever it was, she would then get a piece of that. And so I'm like, I don't need an investment or somebody. I think she offered me, like, it was like $100,000 for like 10% of Alpha M. I'm like, what's she gonna do? I don't need that help. I need help with Pete and Pedro, and so it was great though. It was an amazing experience, and it was awesome. But yeah,
And
I turned that down.
well, good for him. But like Pete and Pedro are still alive and kicking. So
Yeah.
you figured out something, man. You
No,
figured
Pete
out
and Pedro is
something.
great. Pete and Pedro is my the little stepchild that I didn't pay that much attention to. Is all of a sudden, like, over the course of the past few years, really like taken off and is doing really, really well. So,
So
and profitable.
yeah,
And so that's something. And
that's
that's another
awesome.
thing I just want to touch on real quick is that,
Yeah.
in online entrepreneurship, you see a lot of these companies and brands that are very growth minded, and they're not like lifestyle businesses. You're not bootstrapping it. It's real sexy to, think, oh, I'm going to get a huge exit. I'm going to, raise a bunch of money. I'm going to do this, but you're wasting a ton of money. There's nothing wrong with slow, steady growth and making sure that you're profitable along the way. That's one of I think, the challenges that an entrepreneur faces is that, you think, oh, you need something, you need, to have an exit of $200 million or whatever. And so you run a business very differently with a growth mindset versus a lifestyle brand or business that you're
It's
bootstrapping.
sustainable.
Yeah, exactly. And Pete and Pedro, has always been sort of like, I've never thought, oh, someday I'm going to sell this for $100 million. It's always been, let me just try to do better each and every year. I want to grow and maintain a profit margin that I actually make money. Like, why am I doing this business? Why am I risking, or using as much time as it takes? Why am I doing that if I'm not making money? Like, it just doesn't
Yeah.
make sense to me. I want to make money. And so I do.
Yeah, that's smart. That's smart. Okay, so I wanna even understand how you made Pete and Pedro successful. So you walked away from the second shark. Is there more? Is there more to the story? We're almost present day now. We're
Yeah,
almost
well,
present day.
not really. I realized my wife, the other night, I was sure there was a rerun of me on Shark Tank on Sunday. And she's like, how long ago is that? I'm like, shit, I guess it was like 5 years. I'm like, why? She goes, you look so young. I'm like, I still look young.
That's
She's
a
like,
little
not
shade,
that
but
young.
okay.
And so, yeah, so that catches us up, pretty much. After Pete and Pedro, that was, I guess, about 5 years ago. I was on Shark Tank. I started a skincare company called Tiege Hanley with two gentlemen, based out of Chicago. I also started an advertising agency with my best friend from high school called MENfluential Media. And that was started. Everything I do is kind of just by accident. I needed help at that point selling my advertising for my YouTube channel. I was tired of just sending, my media kit and never following up. And so I said to my best friend, Terry, from high school, who was a really, really great car salesman. He was in management in the car industry. He was the first person I knew at 18 that kind of left high school and went and got a job selling cars. And he was the first person I knew, like, making $100,000 a year. But then, fast forward like 20 years, he's now making like 120,000 and he's working, crazy hours. Car sales is a hard game, right? You can do well, but it's a grind. And so I said, you're in between jobs. What do you think? Do you think you could possibly sell advertising for me? He's like, well, let's give it a shot. I said, okay. So I said, well, how much money do you need to like make ends meet? He's like, $5,000 a month. I'm like, all right. And like, this is the most I've ever paid like an employee. And I said, all right, well, let's try it for 3 months. And if it doesn't work in 3 months, then let's just, agree that we tried and this wasn't working. And we just, have to maintain a friendship. And so right away, it was crazy successful. And he did a much better job. I was making more money. He crushed it. And And so we ended up forming an agency. I had my friend Antonio once again. I said, hey, this guy Terry is selling all this advertising for me. He's like, well, will he sell it for me? I'm like, yeah, probably. And so we ended up coming together and forming an agency. And then with our relationship and with all these other guys in our space, it ended up, we started an agency, and now we represent and sell advertising for about 40 guys.
That's not bad. That's not bad. So you just jump.
No.
See, again, just jumping into stuff. Just jumping out of the skincare, Pete and Pedro, and advertising. Is Pete and Pedro number one? That's the one that's. Which one?
And then I also started a hair salon last year. So no. So the way that so Tiege Hanley, the skincare company, is my biggest grossing business, and then second will be Pete and Pedro. And then close to that is MENfluential Media agency, and then my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel advertising is the most profitable, just because there's really not no much expense except my time, and you can make good money doing it. And so and then I also have a sunglass company, Enemy. Damn, I do
my
too
goodness,
much. Yeah, too much. And that one's the hard one that I'm still trying to figure out.
So how do you? Okay, so let's talk. Like, I was gonna pick one of them and say, like, how do you take this product to market? In every single thing you do, it's not an easy market to break into.
Fuck, everything's hard. Like, and that's
everything is hard.
Everything is hard, and yes, I have built a huge audience, right, which is great, and that is a great place to test things. But it still doesn't make it easy. Regardless of the audience you have, it's all about figuring out that marketing mechanism and channel. That is the number one most important thing that you as a business owner or entrepreneur need to figure out. It's not about having a great product. Yeah, your product should be good, but it doesn't matter if you don't know or have the outlet or opportunity to sell it, or people aren't seeing it, it's going to die, and you're never going to ultimately end up realizing your potential. And so you've got to really think through and figure out the advertising angle. And it's not good enough to be like, oh, well, I'm just going to use influencers, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that. Fuck that. Like the influencer world can help, but it's not the answer. Just like, if you have all your advertising and marketing eggs in one basket, like Facebook, like we'll use Facebook as a perfect example. A few months ago, Apple basically changed, or was it Apple? Yeah, Apple changed the way that they, the iOS update, changed the way that the data is relayed. And so overnight, literally, it went from, everybody's like killing it and getting like pretty good data from, what they're, spending on marketing on Facebook, to like, oh my God, like what is happening? Like it became like super challenging, and it's still challenging. Now Google marketplace is actually a better ROI in terms of, ad spend than Facebook. But things are constantly changing. You've just got to be nimble enough as an entrepreneur to sort of look for opportunities and test, affordably before you really go big and all in. Thinking that a big influencer is going to do something amazing for your brand. Yeah, it's going to be okay. It might get you some sales, but what is going to continue to drive sales and advertising and marketing? You really got to figure out that marketing end of it. It is more important than anything when it comes to selling shit.
Did you?
Can I curse on this podcast?
You can curse. Yeah, you can curse as much as you want, man.
Okay, cool.
Be my guest. You're good to go. You're good to go. Yeah. 40 minutes in, you asked, but no.
Can I curse? No, F-bombs.
No, you're good, man. You're good. You're good. Okay, so when you take a product to market, also this would be important for an entrepreneur. Do you figure out stuff yourself, or do you hire people to figure it out for you? What's best?
It depends on what it is. It depends. Like for It really depends on what it is. Usually I'm the one figuring out, but I have no skills when it comes to marketing in terms of like paid traffic and things of that nature.
Yeah.
And so I will hire people. I've made mistakes in the past where I have given equity away because I was new and I didn't have much money, and I thought, oh, well, maybe I'll just give this person a percentage of my business, and then that'll be great, and because I won't have to pay him. Well, that a lot of times doesn't end up working out. If you can pay somebody for a skill like web development or marketing, you know what? Chances are you're going to be better off in the long run if you end up paying for certain skills that you're not good at. Also, let people do what they do, but you've just got to make sure that, marketing can also be a huge black hole. You can spend a ton of money and really, depending on who is spending the money, they can craft a message and a story as to make themselves look like they're working and being more successful than they may actually be. And so you just really got to, just pay attention and do your due diligence when it comes to looking at the numbers, looking at the ROI. Does it make sense what they're saying? But yeah, I'm a firm believer that after years and years and years of trying to micromanage everything, that everything gets better when you get out of your own way.
That's smart. What was out of, I don't know how many products, I'm trying to count, like 5, 6, 7, whatever the hell you're doing, the scope of products that Aaron has, like, what is the biggest entrepreneurial lesson that you've learned growing this brand?
That opportunity does, and success doesn't always look like what you expect or hope it will. And that was something and that's just going back over my illustrious entrepreneurial career, 12-year-old, 20-year-old, 25-year-old me would have punched you in the face if you would have said, hey, in another 5 years, you're not going to be having anything to do with the fitness industry. You're going to be talking to a camera in a hot studio, jumping around and looking like an idiot. I would have punched you in the face because there was no way that's what success was going to look like. But when I was forced to take a look and try something else, that's, it's amazing what can happen. And so I think that's the biggest lesson. A lot of times I think we get so focused on the one thing that we think is going to mean or matter the most that you lose sight of, what, maybe you need to just keep your eyes open because it may not be where you need to end up. And so for me, it was always a function of just pay attention because, just because you want something, even if you want it really bad, doesn't mean that it's in the cards. And you've just got to be open to, knowing, okay, this isn't working. I am going to go down this road because the truth is I would have sold kidneys. If I would have thought that if I sold my kidney, I could have kept my fitness center going, you'd be talking to a dude with one kidney because that's like, I would have done anything at that point to keep that dream alive. But you can only do what you can do. And it was the best thing that ever happened. And that's it's just something to just be aware that, like, and I was in my 30s driving a beer cart, had a business. It was horrible.
Yeah, that's tough.
Right?
That's tough.
And so it's okay. Everything, just
everything
keep going,
everything
guys.
happens
Just
for a
keep
reason.
going. Exactly. Just keep moving forward.
You know what I was going to say though, but like out of all the entrepreneurs that I know that have achieved, like, quote unquote, what some level of success, their today version of themselves is nothing like what they imagined. Even if it's the same business is so different from when they first registered the domain or, made their first sale. Like, shit changes. Gotta be cool with that.
It changes all the time. You got to be cool. Yep.
All right. Okay. I want to do some rapid fire stuff to close this out.
All right.
I want to get, before we pivot, where should people go check out you? What's your socials, your website?
alpham.com. You can go find everything I do there. It's a new website that I recently launched, and
Nice,
I finally
man.
got the domain. And so everything is pretty much there. But yeah, Alpha M everywhere. Alpha M on YouTube, alphaM.com. Go there, check it out.
If I am going to link all the things that you're working on in these show notes, I'm going to need some domains because I don't think I have
Just reach out to
everything.
Mike. Just reach out to Mike. Just reach out and say, Mike, I need all his info.
Yeah, shit. I got like half of it here. All right, let's. Good for you, man. Good. Okay, let's do some rapid fire.
Good.
Okay, so biggest challenge you had in your career or in your personal life. What was something notable? How'd you overcome it?
Like I said, business failing, bankruptcy. That was a super hard thing to wrap my brain around because it was the loss of a dream that I'd had since I was 12 years old. And so, how I overcame it was just deciding to put one foot in front of the other and just decide that I don't know what it looks like, but I'm going to figure it out eventually. And just keep your eyes open.
Awesome. There's been many, but you have to pick one person who's been incredibly influential, had a major impact on your life. Who was it, and what did they teach you?
My wrestling coach, Charlie Kramer. And then my grandfather, Frank Cassoni. So family member, my grandfather, Frank, and then but living, Charlie Kramer. He was a role model that came into my life when I needed it probably the most, and taught me about discipline, taught me about work ethic, and really just helped me, and was a supportive, loving person at a time I really needed it.
An opinion that you have about business entrepreneurship that may not be as popular as widely known with other people.
explain that a little bit more.
Unpopular opinion that you hold about business entrepreneurship.
Unpopular opinion that I hold. Not everybody's supposed to be an entrepreneur. I think that in the hustle culture and everything you look and see online, from Gary Vee to everybody, I think there's a lot of people that think they want to be an entrepreneur that shouldn't be entrepreneurs, quite frankly. You're not built for it. And what I mean by that is it is so hard. It is hard. It is hard. It is hard. There is no easy way to success. It just doesn't happen. Now I'm sure maybe it does happen for some people. I'm not that guy. And so everything I have done and have continued to do is it's hard. And it requires you to go through some really dark periods, or at least it did me. And, if you're not ready for it, it can rob your life of joy. But if you are on that journey and it's something that is in your soul and nothing else will satisfy you or make you happy or fulfilled, then congratulations. Buckle up. It's a tough ride, but it is well worth it when you get to the other side.
That's a damn good opinion. I like that. And I always think that a lot of people that just sort of fall into that hustle culture trap, there's a lot of really good jobs that can pay a lot of money. It can give you a lot better work-life balance and happiness and just time. So be purposeful if you're going to do it. Don't ruin 100%. Your life. Yeah.
It is not for everybody. That is for sure. And there is nothing wrong with finding a job and a career that is amazing, that has benefits, that's going to afford you opportunities and upward mobility and growth and your weekends off like this. Yeah. Like, I've never had a paid vacation. I don't even know what that is. Like, my wife, she works for, a company and I see what she goes through. There's upsides and downsides to everything, but not everybody should be an entrepreneur.
Good. A book or podcast or some resource that you'd recommend people go check out?
So I am one of the, I don't read books, and this is one of the things that I used to lie about. Because I went to this weird Quaker school, and reading and spelling has always been like a hard thing for me. And so, podcast, I love, there's a TED Talk that I just absolutely think is amazing by Simon Sinek. The Start With Why. He is my business management, man crush. I love him. I love everything he does. And so I'll listen to anything that Simon does. So look up Simon Sinek. He's got books. He's got website. He's got TED Talks. He's just an inspirational guy. He's just smart. And I just love everything that he says.
Amazing. If you could tell your 20-year-old self one thing, what would it be?
That it's gonna suck for a little while. It's gonna suck, but you'll be all right. You just gotta stay focused and don't do anything too self-destructive. Because I think that's one of the traps is that we get into some weird. At least I did. I got into some weird self-destructive behaviors because I wasn't happy with myself. And, I was drinking too much. I was, sleeping with people I shouldn't have been sleeping with. And it was simply, I think I was self-medicating for issues that I needed to deal with. And so, definitely if you're somebody that is having trouble putting your past behind you, or it's something that you are struggling, dealing with it, you owe it to yourself and your future self to figure out a way to deal with it, whether or not that means you go to therapy, whether or not that means you talk to somebody, just figure it out, because once you decide that you're going to be happy, then it's just a function of, all right, well, what do I need to do in order to get there? But you're worth it, and you should do whatever you need to do in order to deal with the shit. I say this a lot. I say, unfortunately, we are a lot of times collateral damage in other people's shit, right? So it's not that, the things that happen to you, they were doing them specifically to like F you up or to hurt you or to make you feel bad about yourself. It's just people dealing with themselves in their own life. And sometimes we are a byproduct of that. And so do what you need to do to be happy and healthy.
That's smart, man. And then last question, what does success mean to you?
Success means to me means helping people and feeling like I'm making a difference. That is what I've come to realize is success to me. Feeling like I matter, feeling like I'm making a difference in people's lives, and feeling like, I don't know, just that's it. I mean, for me, it's nothing too complex other than just helping people. I just love helping people. I think it's there's nothing that'll make you feel better and more fulfilled, for me anyway.
Dude, that's it. That's all I got, man. That was great.